China has taken a U-turn, a bad U-turn, a U-turn that will take it to a state of an economic doom, a political ruin, and an overall catastrophe. You're watching TFI Global with me, Atul Mishra, and I will take you to the baffling labyrinths of China's policies, searing infernos of Russia's wrath, and mirthful laugh of the world at large. It's going to be a bumpy ride, so fasten your seatbelt. China is a civilization that tries too hard to be a country. China has had a tumultuous past. It is riddled with the history of Mongolian invasion, Japanese conquest, the Opium Wars, and the so-called century of humiliation. China of the modern world is, of course, different, very different from Qin, Sui, or Tang Dynasty China. Former CCP chairman, also known as the Chinese president, Deng Xiaoping, defined China as a democracy with Chinese characteristics, which in other way means a state-controlled capitalist economy. China thrives on exports. It literally litters the shelves in the world with its cheap products. China exports because the world buys. The world buys because the products are cheap. The products are cheap because labor is cheap, and labor is cheap because, well, China is a democracy with Chinese characteristics. We watch movies about slaves and thank the heavens that we weren't born in that era. But China practices the most gruesome form of slavery without the world caring about it. Tibetans, Uyghurs, Tajiks, Uzbeks, basically every non-Han in China is a potential slave. Slaves don't have fixed working hours or minimum wages, and hence China can produce virtually anything and in any quantity. Also, China promises a world of opportunities to the world. It is the biggest market in the world, and from French perfumes to German cars, everyone wants a piece of the market. However, the Chinese market is a myth. China doesn't believe in buying so much as it believes in selling. The miraculous rise of China was largely at the world's expense, and by world I don't mean the underdeveloped or developing economies. It grew at the expense of the USA's, UK's, and Japan's of the world. Hey, it's me, Atul. I started this channel. We started small, we went big. Suddenly, the Whitey police was after us. We dodged and ducked, but the algos got us really bad. So we designed our own app. It's free. We never asked for money, we never will. But the droid called us too sensitive and blocked us. We still have an Apple app. Join us and fast, because if you don't, we will cease to exist. Check out the link in the description. The undoing of China had to begin at some time, and so it did. Fate had ordained Donald Trump to inaugurate the anti-China campaign in the world. What he started became a global movement, and as the pandemic descended upon the world, every country started dismantling its China unit. China was suddenly at the mercy of the world. China and Russia are considered best friends. However, that's far from true. China and Russia are friends of convenience. With the collapse of the Soviet Union, Russia became a minor power. Its power diminished with every passing year. In fact, the rise of China's economic might and the diminishing of Russia's power were concurrent events. Russia became a natural ally of China despite two wars, countless border skirmishes, and a plethora of border disputes. As Putin annexed Crimea in 2014, Russia was reduced to the state of a pauper state. It needed China more than ever, and China wanted a big country, which was a superpower of the past, on its side. It was a win-win situation. Coronavirus, which was a lab-created virus, turned out to be messier than expected, and China became its biggest casualty. As the CCP hid China's death counts and infection rates, the slow death of China's economy became a global news. An export-driven economy wasn't exporting as much. It had a trade war with the US, a trade war with Australia. Japan was wrapping up its businesses in China. India was banning its apps like there is no tomorrow. EU inked an EU-favoring trade deal with China, and its investments in Africa and South Pacific were getting swallowed. China was getting pounded from all sides, and all it had was Russia. But Russia didn't have enough money to compensate for the losses due to China's dying exports. Suddenly, the economic problem had become a political problem. You see, China is a country born out of a revolution. From Tibetan uprising to the Tiananmen Square uprising, China has seen many revolts. So the CCP chalked out an invisible deal with its people. You surrender your fundamental rights and I will give you money. The larger Han community kept getting richer and richer, the money for which came from the massive exports. As the exports are drying up and the economy is faltering, China is faced with an existential threat for the first time in the last 30 years. It has many mouths to feed and doesn't have enough money. The solution? Bow down to the West and make amends. And that has come in the form of its Ukraine statement. China unequivocally slammed Russia for its aggression at the Russia-Ukraine border and advised to withdraw its troops and reduce hostilities. This is China's appeal to US and NATO. I'm on your side. Please resume business with us. It's funny because the Russia-Ukraine pseudo-war is being remote controlled from the White House. Putin is not going to take it lightly. The friendship of convenience already had many cracks and fissures, and China's surrender to the West will simply distance Kremlin from Beijing. So the moral of the story is that the West won't pay heed to China because they have burned their hands dealing with them. At least they aren't going to make it the factory of the world again. Japan will remain hostile to China. Australia will remain hostile to China. India will remain hostile to China. Germany doesn't have Merkel anymore, and France is already miffed at China. But an annoyed Russia will make life super difficult for China. Chinese exports to Russia amounts to $52.9 billion. Russia controls almost the entire Central Asia, the heart of Jinping's ambitious BRI initiative. Putin has cordial relations in West Asia as well, and most importantly, Russia is China's biggest defense partner. China is almost entirely dependent on Russia for its jet engine tech and naval tech. A miffed Putin won't make a good partner. He who wanders towards the unshore, leaving the shore, gets nothing in the end. China's economic compulsions that could lead to a political crisis made Beijing to the line of the West. And with that, China has signed up for a more excruciating death.